Good afternoon. Sorry to have been away from making videos for a while, but hopefully I should be back to it a little bit more often now. Today I've got something I think kind of fun, which is this Timex watch. Now, this is a reissue of one that, well, I actually owned during the 80s. I probably bought it in about 84 or 85. So here's the original, at least the closest example I could find. This is from the Sears Wish Book of December 1984. And you can see we have number 11 there. If we hold this one up to it, this is just printed off the archive.org page. You can see that it's the same face, same display, and the functions are identical. The case is different, and mine was chrome with a stainless steel bracelet and a white face, but they made it with a black face, and they made probably the most common one was the gold with a gold bracelet. But I went for stainless steel here. So there are a few things that are obviously different about this, and then I'll give you my impressions after it. But first I want to talk about the differences since I've got the picture. This case is a machined, presumably stainless steel case. This is a base metal, probably zinc, pot metal, whatever, that's been die cast and then plated. These were very thin, or by modern watch standards, this is comparatively chunky. This, you'll notice, has lugs. This has a more integrated bracelet. Although you could, in principle, put a strap on this, but you'd probably have to cut it down. It's only 16 millimeters in there, so you'd probably want a larger strap and cut down the attachment point, which causes some problems. But if you buy this, you probably want the bracelet, because the bracelet's pretty nice. Other interesting things about the case, since it's cast, this one has some sort of relief. There's a little, you can't really see it, there's a little bump over protecting the buttons on the top, and a flat spot around the crown, which they obviously can't do at this price point for in a watch. But and this was comparatively light. The bracelet was also comparatively light. This is really quite a heavy watch with the bracelet. So changed a bit, but in terms of the face, which has the nice Q for quartz over the Timex as the 12 o'clock indicator, which I really like. Yeah, this is, so I bought this, of course, because I kind of wanted to relive 1984 or whatever. I think Timex claims this model is based on a 1982 version, but I think it's probably the same watch. I wasn't able to find a 1982 catalog on a fairly quick search to find it. Just as an aside, this watch was very commonly owned by my teenage peers in the mid-80s. This was I don't know, this thing was very popular for a while. But yeah, so when Timex re-released this, I kind of figured, oh, it's a little expensive, but I'm going to buy it anyway. So I did. So let's put this away. I love looking at old catalogs on archive.org, especially that are older than me. So let's talk a little bit about this watch and what it does. It's an analog digital watch, very common, early to mid 80s kind of thing. I had mine from 84 or 85 into the early 90s when it got pushed out by a variety of sports watches, and at some point I tossed it out. You've got day, date, time, which is set entirely independently of the quartz watch, so you can use it for another time zone if you want, or use it on 24-hour mode. It's got an alarm, not really useful in the cell phone era, and it's got a perfectly adequate stopwatch with a lap function, and little indicators of what it's up to. Well-designed display. I'll zoom in a little bit more so you can see. I'll run through that again. So you can see there's the stopwatch mode. It's got a chime too. Again, not something you're actually ever going to use. stopwatch, time, and yeah, and a month, day, all that sort of stuff. So in other words, it's an analog digital watch from the era. It's got all the functions you'd expect. You could buy the same thing from a number of manufacturers, but mine was from Timex, and when Timex released this, I kind of had to buy it. The model number is on the back, which is glaring. It's TW2Y05900, I think, and there you can see it's 16 millimeter log. And this is, of course, made in China, right? It's nothing fancy. Okay, so what's changed? The case is now a fairly nicely made stainless steel case. It's maybe a bit bigger than it needs to be. I mean, clearly the decision has been made that people want it chunky. If I hold it up next to my wife's smaller sized Apple Watch, I can't remember which year that one is. This is a little smaller, but it's in that sort of size range. It's a fairly decent sized thing, but not gigantic by current watch standards, of course. The bracelet is folded, which of course all bracelets of this style are, but as you can see, it's quite nicely done. Timex did often sell watches with the bracelet done the other way around, so these links would be on the side you see. But this is really quite nicely done. It's obviously nothing terribly fancy, but it's very solid, quite heavy, doesn't rattle. I'm quite pleased with that. And yeah, I mean, really, that's mostly what one has to say about this. Big fingerprint. So what about the value proposition of this? This is, I'll give you Canadian dollar prices because that's what I bought it for. So this was $250 Canadian, which is a lot of money considering a Casio analog digital goes for like around $100, right? And you can often find those for less. The Casio, mind you, is a plastic body with a rattly arm hair grabbing strap, and so it's plastic and then coated with metal foil. However, if you just want to have one to play with it, the Casios look great, and they've got some really neat faces in the Casio, so totally recommend that, right? But I kind of like, I kind of wanted it. Now, just to compare, I'll zoom back out for a second, to the prices. What's interesting is it hasn't changed very much. So keep in mind that this one is not stainless steel. It's, I'll try to get that out of the light. There we go. This is not stainless steel. It's base metal, and it is plated, and you've got a strap, which cuts the cost down a little bit, and and of course the difference in so that was the list price for that was $60 US, which on sale for $44.89. Sears really loved the 89 price point in this era, but so this is US dollars. So if you convert a 1980, I think it was 1985 I did, but it was about the same for 84. The $60 to current, it's $177. So, considering you're getting stainless steel and a better strap, it's kind of weirdly close to the original price, which I find interesting. In this era, if you were to get a Seiko of similar quality, it would have been stainless steel, and it would be very nicely made comparatively. That would have been over $100, list price anyway. So, yeah, it's a little too much. It should have been $200 Canadian, maybe $150 US. It's a little bit too expensive, but in the context of me wanting it for nostalgia purposes, I'm happy to buy it. It's fun to keep track now that both Timex and Casio, and you have Armatron, who I don't think there are any on this page, but will also show up in the catalog at this point. Doing reissues of classic designs or new versions of classic designs in many cases, like this is really. That's kind of fun for those of us who, grew up in the 80s to have a chance to play with stuff that we had then and no longer have. And also, some of these designs are kind of timeless. I think this one works pretty well. I like it better than the Casio for a couple of reasons, and I did at the time. Anyway, thanks for watching.